particularly in the freelance world, you know, you can be really busy one week and you feel super confident and there's offers coming in and it's great. And then it could be followed by a quiet week or 2 or 3 weeks.
Welcome to Real Health with me, Carl Henry. Folks, busy lives require balance, and someone who has a lot of irons in the fire joins me in the studio today. From TV presenting to founding a clothing company called Little Bliss to broadcasting, all while being a very active parent. Today's guest is Anna Daly. Anna, welcome to the show. How's it going?
Thanks very much. Delighted to be here.
I always get nervous when I bring broadcasters in. It's like, oh God, this is what they do for a living.
You're judging me. I'm not judging you at all.
I better be good.
I'm too busy watching my words.
How is life? First and foremost, how are you?
Yeah, I'm great, thanks. Delighted to be able to do stuff like this, to be honest. So, you know, I've been freelance for the last few years now, and it's given me the freedom that I wanted, you know, to be able to work with RTE, the national broadcaster, to look at other projects, to develop commercial projects, and to be able to make decisions like this, to sit down with yourself without having to check with anyone. It's quite nice.
And was broadcasting always the plan? Is that where you wanted to end up work-wise, presenting TV, media?
No, not at all. And not because it didn't excite me, but because there wasn't anyone in my life to inspire me or to, you know, if you don't see it, you can't be it kind of thing. I didn't have any family or friends or anyone I knew on the telly. So I did that thing when I finished school of choosing marketing. It was a time where you didn't know what you wanted. It was, you know, it was like the arts course.
Yeah.
But actually it was a great choice because it's probably now helpful. Well, it's always helpful. It's a great course to do. So I studied marketing. I went into one of my first jobs was radio, and then TV was TV3 at the time, pre-Virgin. But it was very much sales stroke marketing, and that's where I was, and I wanted to be in the marketing department, and I got there. So that was my kind of career plan before I had my head turned with, you know, shows that were going out down the end of the corridor that really excited me. And
how do you get to the shows then? So you go in terms of marketing / sales, and then you end up in front of the camera. Yeah, what happened was, and it was actually really indicative of the place at the time in terms of how young, it was really dynamic. You know, the term pivoting didn't even exist really. Well, if it did, it wasn't on my radar. But what happened was when I became marketing manager for TV3, you're suddenly in charge of marketing the various programmes. And obviously the biggest homegrown programme was The Breakfast Show, Ireland AM. And I found myself in a meeting one day with other kind of more senior managers than I was and producers. And halfway through a presentation, one of the producers, who's now a great pal, turned around to me and said something along the lines of, have you ever been screen tested for Ireland AM? And I did that real Irish thing of, I have not. No. And I continued with my presentation. But it was only when I went home later on that evening, I said to Ben, who was then my boyfriend, now husband, and I shared it with him. And he was like, you're so quick, because he would have, I always say he has kind of an international outlook on things, and I have a real Irish outlook. Yeah. He was like, you're so quick to just diss that idea. And actually, you could kick yourself in 10 years, 20 years down the line for saying no to stuff like that. So I thought about it and I thought, he's so right, he always is. So I went back to that producer after I actually went and did a night course. I think it still exists in Milltown, Bill Keating. Oh, yeah.
And it was producing, directing, presenting.
Oh, wow.
And it was my own time, my own money in the evenings, and I loved every second of it.
Okay.
So that for me was confirmation that I needed to go back to the producer, and I went and did the screen tests, and that's where it started.
Because presenting, particularly now with Instagram, social marketing, you market yourself very much so. There is an aspect to presenting that is marketing in some ways.
Absolutely, especially when you look at the influencers now. You know, they are accepting of the fact that they are a brand, you know, and they're building their brand, and they're very careful about their strategy, probably more so than I ever was.
Yeah, they have an awareness of strategy and what they're doing.
That's not on brand for me, you know. And I admire that, to be honest, you know. I think I was just too busy figuring everything out to have a strategy.
And then you get contracts, so you're employed, and then you go into the freelance world. That's a big shift. Yeah, so I was on air in TV3 / Virgin for 13 years. So I went from reporter, presenter, weekday show, pitched the idea for the weekend show, felt there was a gap there.
I was invited into Trinity recently, which sounds very notionsy in itself, but I never got the points to go to Trinity. Them asking me to go in and give their, bright sparks advice in their entrepreneurial club, I was like, really? Are you sure you meant me? But I went in, and that was one of the things I said. The anchor job didn't exist when I was a reporter. So I had to kind of take myself out of the situation, look back into it and go, I need to create a gig here. And that's where I thought, I'm going to pitch the weekend version of this weekday show, and it will give me a chance to launch something, start something new rather than join something that's already successful, and become an anchor. And it took a year or two, but that was how I kind of promoted myself, I suppose, with the idea of pitching something myself. So yeah, did that. I feel 13, 14 years of doing all of that, great foundation, amazing live experience. But I was ready to kind of go out on my own and, work with RTE, take up new projects, be they commercial or otherwise.
You earned your stripes. You put the groundwork in. And
felt like I did. Yeah. It's like a pilot with their air miles, isn't it?
You have to do, and people don't get that now.
Yeah.
In fairness, the up and coming generation don't get the earning your stripes kind of component, or putting the 10,000 hour principle into action, where you have to make all the mistakes, but you have to do it by doing it.
Totally. Yes. And you learn as you go, and you learn by your mistakes, but once you make it, you hopefully will never make it again. So yeah, an amazing foundation. And I suppose it gave me the confidence to go on and pitch other ideas and take up other projects. And that's been really nice.
And did you have someone that you when you were getting into TV, that you said, I think they're the person I want to be, or their style of presenting is the one I want to? Because you didn't have anyone in your direct kind of family network.
Yeah.
So was there someone you aspired to be like, or similar to?
I've probably looked at the likes of Catherine Thomas and watched her style. I don't think, and I'd say this to any aspiring presenter, and I'm sure you'd say the same, you can't decide, I want to be like Holly Willoughby, I want to be like Fern Cotton. They're all people I really like, but I can't develop their personality overnight either. And I think when you're trying to be someone else, you're not being your authentic self. So, and I think live TV, there's no chance of hiding. There's no pretending to be someone else just because you think they might be cooler than you. I think you have to just be yourself, and, flaws and all. And I think when you start doing that, people either like your style or they don't.
Have you always been confident?
No, I'm
people
confident.
Would know you as a very uneven.
Yeah.
I would have. You would have interviewed me several times over the years, and I would have seen you as someone very confident and self-assured and very, has her shit together.
Thanks, that's great to hear. And I look at other people, particularly other female broadcasters, and think they have all their shit together. Yeah. So no, I'm a swan, like so many other broadcasters, and when Miriam told me that, actually, I was like, oh my God, you are? Like, really? You've got it all together. I was really glad to hear that. And I often ask, really successful people those questions as well. And you often find, especially with home life, it's the ultimate leveler, isn't it? To go home and empty the dishwasher and start the dinner and realise nothing in the fridge. And, some days I'm really confident about what I'm doing, and other days I'm questioning everything from my business to myself and particularly in the freelance world, you can be really busy one week and you feel super confident and there's offers coming in and it's great. And then it could be followed by a quiet week or 2 or 3 weeks where...
What do you do then? How do you manage that? Obviously,
severe panic.
You have a very positive other half, obviously.
Yeah.
You mentioned him already. He's very positive.
He is very positive, yes. And if he's panicking, he doesn't show it.
Oh, yeah, good.
Whether it's towards the kids or myself, I really feel like he is the safe pair of hands. He's the guy who steadies the ship regardless of what's gone wrong that week. And every home needs that person, Like I always say, the difference between the two of us is if something happened, or regardless of anything happening that day, I come in and spill it all. I'm like, blah, 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 get it all off my chest. He might take 2 days to share something that happened because it has to, percolate. And he's that calm and measured, and he's going over it in his own head, and then he'll be ready to share it. So we're all different, I suppose. But yeah, I think we probably complement each other.
The uncertainty is very difficult to handle, isn't it?
In the freelance world, it's scary.
Yeah.
It's scary. And whether it was a marketing job I had, sales job, to, a salaried position as a TV presenter, there was always peace of mind there that you were being paid at the end of the month. you know. I think it does make you more hustly in the freelance world. I've become more of a hustler. I've become that person who isn't afraid to send a second or a third email going, you know, just a gentle reminder here, because I know what it's like, you know, and I have a clothing brand that you mentioned at the start, and something could pique my interest when I get it from someone, you know, an influencer who wants to work with your brand, for example, but I might not reply straight away for whatever reason. And I love to get those reminders from people. So I have to remind myself that it's okay to email that producer or follow up on this. And the wording is key, isn't it? You know,
very important.
Just bumping this up. I know you're really busy. But, you know, I'd love to follow up or I'd love to have a chat. But I'm getting way more hustly on that front. I think you have to be. You've got bills to pay.
Yeah. The clothing brand. Okay. So where did that come out of?
That came out of my head with years of, you know, tear sheets and ideas and photos and mood boards. And what happened was I would work on projects for other brands, Carl, and they do really well. And then I'd be like, I really should do this for myself rather than doing it for other brands. Mm-hmm. So during lockdown, early lockdown, I started pulling it all together. And I decided if I'm going to develop a clothing brand, it's not going to be the on-air glam stuff, because that's not my real world. My real world is kicking the ball around the green with kids in a hoodie and jeans. Mm-hmm. Like, that's the reality. So I thought it's going to be a casual clothing brand. Comfortable, organic, ethical, all of those really important things. What I didn't know, and here's where the timing comes in, because timing is everything, isn't it? Was that lockdown was coming and you were going to have the world's CEOs sitting in hoodies. Never mind the rest of us. But, you know, people who never worked and sat on conference calls, Zoom calls in casual gear were suddenly doing it. So the timing of Little Bliss was fairly impeccable. The shops were closed. I had an online business and it was casual. The world went casual. It was impeccable.
Where does the name come from?
I stole it from my husband, who had various names.
He's central to all the key.
He really is, yeah. He'll be delighted that I acknowledge that, because there's been a bit of a struggle at home over that. He had various names for a nursery business that they were setting up. They settled on Calliope, and I felt Little Bliss I wanted it, and they didn't use it. So hopefully I won't get an invoice for that at any stage.
So that's so on top of freelancing then, and trying to back yourself and trying to, the brand of you in terms of what you do for MC work or TV work or radio work or whatever it may be, you're running a business then on the side.
Yeah. Wow. And sometimes it's a good question, Carl, because, you know, when you do get busy on a TV show, it takes over a week, 2 weeks, as you well know. Yeah. And, you know, your eye is over here, and then, you know, sometimes I feel, because it is just me, I have a fulfillment company. So if you place an order on the website, it will be fulfilled by a fulfillment company in Galway.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So, of course, the picking, packing, dispatching is happening, but you still need to be on it in terms of social media, the emails, not missing opportunities, obviously, and thinking about the next step in terms of where it needs to go. And sometimes TV stuff can take over, or, you know, a nice gig comes in and you have to choose that from a financial point of view over the business. So yeah, I do find myself, it could be 1 a.m, tapping away on my laptop, talking to a supplier in Portugal. And that's just the way it needs to be. But I do enjoy it. It's not hard graft to me, because I genuinely love it. I love the brand. I love what it represents. And sometimes I doubt, where does it need to be next? And I struggle with the ethics of that. You know, I don't want it to be this huge consumer brand. So
Why?
Because it's slow fashion. So it's seasonless. It's made in a place in Porto in Portugal, where I could walk onto the floor tomorrow and see it being stitched by a very happy lady who also makes and produces pieces for very high-end designer brands that I'm not allowed to say. Mm-hmm. But it really excites me that it's coming out of the same room. Yeah, at very different price points, by the way. But yeah, I enjoy it. And while I'm enjoying it, it's fine. And I don't mind the, you know, late nights emails if I have to catch up. Some weeks are a little bit more balanced than that, though.
Because you have to balance work, the clothing brand, and then 3 boys.
Yeah.
We haven't got a family life yet.
The things I'll do to escape the madness of 3 boys. Like it's a mad, wild, noisy house. But to be honest with you, sometimes I go home and they're all off training, or and the quietness of the house is weird.
Do you struggle with that? So because from the chat so far, people listening in will get it. I get it from chatting to you like this, that you thrive on the next thing, the next project, the chaos, the 1 a.m. email.
Yeah.
When it all stops, is that hard? When you have that hour in the day?
Sometimes it's an absolute gift. Like I often say, to have your own house to yourself, you're smiling as well.
I get it.
It's a joy, especially when you make a conscious decision not to do housework, not to start cleaning or doing something that, a chore. When you just decide, I'm going to have a glass of wine and watch Netflix for an hour until they all come home, and everything else can fall apart around me. There's a great kind of liberating feeling that comes with that, I think.
And is that part of your how you mind your health, that you can put aside that time?
With wine?
Wine is very important for long-term health. We know this.
You have to escape. Have to escape the grind.
But that you can stop and say, leave the housework, leave the floor is messy, who cares? I'm going to sit with a glass of wine and watch whatever, Bridgerton or whatever.
Absolutely. Yeah, lovely. Good choice.
The news here. Have you seen the news here?
I haven't started it yet. Have you? Yeah. You've blitzed it, have you?
No, I haven't. I wish. I've seen 2. But anyway, there we go.
I'm only halfway through The Gentleman. Guy Ritchie's, which has gone a little bit off the wall. But anyway.
Because people they struggle with that, don't they? Now, I struggle with that. I turn into I have to clean everything. When I get stressed out, I come home and start, like Jean knows, I start pick up the thing and start cleaning everything. And I can't chill till it's all clean.
Yes.
Part of my fridge OCD thing.
Yes.
But,
I've seen your fridge. Oh my God, I'm never going to get there.
Yeah, it calms me down in a really weird way. But it is, some people can do that. They can say, I am going to prioritise myself with the glass and leave the mess because it's not important. Yes,
and I'm saying that, but I have to agree with you. I'm a happier person when I feel like there's organisation going on around me. But my standards have dropped significantly over the years. Before children came along, I feel like everything was very organised. Now they've dropped significantly, and there might be stinky football boots in the porch and they can just stay there. For today and tomorrow anyway. I'm not going to stress about it because what's the point, really?
So your own health and wellness then.
Yeah.
Let's chat about that.
Yes.
How do you manage it?
So I go to a gym in Greystones. Yep. And I like spin classes because I feel you get in, you do it, you get out. On the way out, I've started to do some free weights. And I suppose my issue is when I go, I really enjoy it. And my mind dines out on the fact that I've done a class today and maybe some weights. But I might not get back there for another week. So, I start with great intentions on the Monday morning going, I'm going to hit that place 3 times this week at least. But to be honest with you, I probably go once to twice a week. That's the real life answer, because other things, and I'm probably quick to let other things replace it. Whereas other people are much more strict on, I can do that at that time because I've got the gym then. Whereas I will absolutely let that drop out of my schedule very quickly and replace it with something else. And I know I'm guilty of that, and I need to kind of be stricter about the regime.
What about unwinding from a mental health perspective? So, because you have a lot going on.
A lot going on, yeah. I kind of like the hustle and bustle of home.
Yeah.
Every so often I will just say I'm going to go out for a walk, and that might be once a week. And it might just be a walk around the block, like a literal mental health walk. And otherwise it could be an hour and a half. And I'll do a few calls on the walk, because I'm trying to be productive as well as get my steps in. Yep. And I like that, and like that you never come home and regret doing that walk or that exercise. So, try and do that as often as I can.
Chat to me about the advice you give your younger self then. So if you're going back to when you left college with your marketing degree.
Yeah. I kind of feel sometimes I should have, got to places earlier in my life than I did. But then I wasn't ready, like particularly with Little Bliss. I often thought I should have done that like 10 years previous, especially when you look at, like I did a gig recently for Guaranteed Irish. So I was hosting a podcast with all these new businesses, and like they're like in their 20s. Yeah. And I'm looking at them going, I was twirling at 21, you know? I was like, are we backpacking around Australia? What's next, you know? But that's kind of where I needed to be at that time.
Yeah.
I was having a laugh. I was living my best life. And I think you're kind of supposed to do that. But when I listen to some of the really tuned in 20-year-olds now, I do kind of go, wow, they really have their shit together. They know exactly where they need to be. And they come out with sentences like we mentioned earlier on, you know, that's not on brand for me. Like, how do you even know what your brand is? Do you know what I mean? I'm so impressed. I still don't know what my strategy is.
But they looked at awareness is there's a globalization now to the youth that come out. And I know you've said that in it before around that Davina McCall, you're a big fan of hers, that, you know, that you look broader than just Ireland.
Yes.
That it can be bigger, or it doesn't have to be just here.
No, it doesn't. So I listened to Davina and I thought it was an amazing podcast. Nearly as good as yours. The Diary of a CEO with Stephen Bartlett.
I've heard a few of them, yeah.
And
the Zempic one is a good one. Fascinating. Have you heard the Zempic one? Oh my God, it's really interesting.
Is it?
I'm into all that, obviously, but
of course,
fascinating.
No, I'll be honest.
I'll trade. I listen to Davina on the way home, and you can listen to the Zempic one.
Okay, good call, and we'll do a post-analysis tomorrow. Davina, I thought, was the very best one he's done so far. It was probably one of the best podcasts I've ever heard, and it's all down to her as a guest.
Yep.
She was incredible. She was so honest, but she just touched on things. And like, if you think about it, Davina McCall is a household name in the UK and in Ireland, and has a wealth of TV shows and productions and stuff she's created herself and fronted. And yet she said in that interview, I still send emails to commissioners in ITV, BBC, Channel 4, whoever it might be. You know, can I do that gig? I see you're going to do Love Island for adults, or, you know, she's like, I'm still hustling. And I was marvelling at the fact that she said that out loud. So A, she's admitting it, amazing. B, she's saying it out loud. So to the rest of us, like, who don't have a scratch on her experience, I was like, I need to be doing that. I need to be like, rather than waiting for people to knock on my door, I need to be more hustly. And it's okay to be hustly.
The Irish way is to wait, isn't it?
To wait.
Yeah.
And I used to think, sure, they can see what I do.
And just sit and wait for it to come.
Yeah, it's bonkers. Yeah. It's way too much, you know, it's a cluttered marketplace. There's loads of presenters. There's loads of great people. And I think, you know, it's about being good at what you do, but it's also always down to timing, isn't it? You know, you walk into someone's office at the right time when they need to fill a gap, and you just hope that that is a good day to fill that gap. And I just thought that's brilliant that she said it out loud. There's no arrogance there. It's so modest and it's so real. And it's a reminder to everyone else that even people at the top of their game still have to reach out, still have to be creative, come up with ideas, and send those emails going, gentle reminder, I'm here.
And would that be your takeaway point you'd leave people with from today's chat, which is, you know, back yourself, send that email or have that conversation or ask that person out on a date or whatever.
Exactly, and you're right.
Make that leap that you're afraid to make, whatever it may be.
Yeah, because, and same with business, you know, like you can have an idea and do nothing about it for years, but actually when you do it, even if it doesn't work, you know, even if it doesn't last, the learnings that you will take from that experience will go into some other project. So I think the worst thing you can do is sit back and not do anything. I'm sure you tell your clients this all the time, you know. Get up, do it, make it happen, send the email, send 10 emails to the same person if you have to. Like, what's the big deal? Do you know what I mean? No one's going to judge you for it. And if they are, it's on them rather than you. So show the ambition, and I don't think you'll ever regret it. I think you'll regret not sending those emails or not putting yourself out there for whatever the gig is, or as you say, the date, you know, the person. Don't be, you know, someone in years to come who looks back on it going, that could have been a really good opportunity and I didn't take it, because I think that's the worst thing, to have to live with that.
Just be great to catch up. I feel really motivated now. I have 4 or 5 ideas in my head. Like, all right, so on the train home, I'm going to send that. You don't need motivation. You are the motivator. Surround yourself with the fear of sending that, about that pitch for that TV show or that pitch for whatever. You do hold back. I think it is a very Irish thing.
You do. And also you worry, will other people, and I've stopped doing that now actually, you know, what will my friends think? What will, you know, my peers think? You know, will my random cousins see that and cringe for me? Who cares? They're not paying your mortgage. you know? So just get out there and commit to it. And I think anyone who backs you, loves you, wants to be part of your life will admire it.
Anna Daly, thank you so much for coming into the studio today. Folks, I'm sure you would agree with exactly what I'm thinking, which is you're empowered having listened to this for the last 25 minutes or so. If people want to find you or your clothing brand, where do they find them?
So Little Bliss is littlebliss.com. It's on the website. And I suppose Anna Daly is the rest of it.
On Instagram?
Yes, Anna Daly.
Amazing. Anna, thank you so much for coming in. Folks, I really hope you enjoyed today's episode of Real Health. Lots of content, lots of motivation. And as ever, the life lessons episodes are very much my favourites. Interesting people, interesting content, and interesting takeaways. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next week for more Real Health. As ever, you know where we are, at Henry PT on Instagram, Real Health on the Irish Independent website, and we'll see you next week. Slán go full.